Good morning, evening and or afternoon everyone, and welcome to Trollspilot's live stream, where today we will have a check-in with Mandarb, my new, hopefully, combat horse, and we'll see if there's been any progress. We of course think there's been some progress, and we hope to show you what and how and why and where and all those things. That's more or less what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we're going to do today, actually. And well, first, a little bit of a background, maybe, on Mandarb. He will be replacing my old, in all ways, my old combat horse, Prumik, who's turning what, 23, 24, something like that this year.
Don't look at me.
Hey, but what?
I don't remember
old.
numbers.
Kind of old. And I wanted a new horse that is strong and kind of baroque in his appearance. And I always wanted a black horse, of course, but you have to wait. You can't, like, if you don't know how to drive, then don't drive the fanciest car you can find. So I've waited a while to get a hold of something like this guy. We got him 2 years ago, 2.5, is it? 1.5? Do you know?
It's here.
Let's see.
July 21.
July 21st, actually, we got him. And July in 21 is what I'm trying to say. That's when we got him, so not quite 2 years yet. He was... he looked everything we wanted him to be, but he was kind of timid, especially if he has to handle his own body in ways he isn't used to. He was clearly used to handling tasks like being told to go here or go there or jump this or step on that. That's fine with him, but being told how to jump here or go there, that was fairly new to him. He was almost not ridden at all when we got him, and he was already 5 years old then. So of course there's a lot of training that needs to go into a horse like that, and we will try today to show you how he looked when we started, how he progressed, what kind of what can you call it, where his weaknesses and strengths lie, and we will try and show you how to use those strengths in order to get rid of some of the weaknesses.
Yep.
Yeah, that's mostly what we're going to do, right?
So we've got lots of still pictures and videos.
Lots of stills and videos for you today.
And we haven't gone through them in detail as usual. So we
do that with you.
So it's going to be exciting to see what we find.
Yeah. Should we just bring up the first picture, number 1? Right, so as you see, right out of the transport, so fresh that I even hadn't gotten my biking trousers off, my biking tights, because you know I had to ride my bicycle when I didn't have a proper war horse.
But you can see that in this picture he's of course he's a little uptight because he's looking around himself. It's a completely new place.
Yeah, and he comes straight off the transport, so he's all sorts of uptight. You can see his hind hooves almost don't touch the ground, and he's almost on his toes because of the tightness. And even if he's tight like that, you can see that his pelvis doesn't really tuck under properly, and also kind of hard to see, but there is kind of a sharp dent just behind the withers. It's kind of hard to see when he keeps his head up like that, but it has sort of always been there, no matter which position he's in. He drops his back behind the wither, and then there's a hole just in front of the wither too, the lance mark. They used to call that somewhere, I read sometime. You can also see in this picture that it looks like he's got a very short neck, and he's got a protruding underneck. Also, he's standing kind of over his front feet, leaning forward onto his front legs, even if he's trying to show himself off as a tough guy. So it's an interesting photo, I think. Should we just move on to next photo and see if there are differences? So number 2 from the side. Yeah.
And this is August, same year?
August, same year, so
Just
3 months later. And, well, he doesn't stand the same way, as you can see, much more relaxed, but that's what we were working on in the beginning, to try and have him more relaxed. I wouldn't say that there are massive differences in his body. He looks, he might look a little bit like stronger, chubbier.
Yeah, it looks like that, but I think it's because he's more relaxed.
I think that's the only thing that has actually happened. He's more relaxed here. Maybe that dent behind the withers is a little less pronounced now, and also the one in front of the withers. But that is, of course, because he's stretching. You can still see that his underneck is quite profound.
Yeah, and this is perhaps we can say that. This is also the reason why we want the horse to stretch in the beginning and to lower his neck and to become long.
Yeah.
Because then you get him to stretch the muscles in the top line so that the tension, in the front and the back of the withers is relaxing a little more.
Yeah, like it's around the spine. All the way from the skull and all the way down to the sacrum. Most beings, at least horses and people, have different spots that are really tight in the musculature and some that are not tight in the musculature. You will see in different people, you can see that they are people who train a lot, at least, you can see that they are more developed in parts of the back than they are in other parts of the back, which is the same for everyone, right? And that development will always, it shows tendencies in your movement patterns. So you tend to use these muscles more than these other muscles. And with this guy, you can see that it is quite obvious that just behind the wither and just in front of the withers, he's more tense, so the muscles don't grow as much.
And what we know about horses that are like that, they are often more tense in like psychologically as well.
Yes.
And he was a little like that.
He felt quite what do you call it? He did not feel reliable. He would spook at all sorts of things that are non-things, really. Little inconveniences. He would spook at the fence, or
swishing of a tail.
His own tail.
Yeah.
you know how horses are. That is how he would behave. He would be like spooking at everything. And not because he was a spooky guy, but because he's kind of stuck in his own body. That's the way I view it anyway. Should we have a look at the next one, number 3? All right, so that's from October the same year. So we're still in 21. And it's becoming obvious that the neck is changing. You can see around the wither he's coming more up, just both in front and behind the wither. Of course, he's not standing exactly the same in all these images, and we understand this, but it is quite clear to see a tendency, and we will keep showing this tendency. You can see here that his pelvis is way more underneath than it used to be, and his back strangely looks shorter and longer at the same time.
Yes.
It's a very weird thing, but it happens quite a lot. Still, he's hanging on his front legs, so he's kind of tucking his front legs underneath him while leaning over them with his shoulder. But it doesn't look like it's a problem for him. So one of his strengths is actually strength.
Yeah, he's so strong.
He's exceptionally strong. One of the stronger horses I've ever worked or ridden. Like, he's not the most explosive, but he's very strong in everything he does. it feels, sometimes it can feel like, you know, if you're pushing at a huge pine or fir tree, something like, it just doesn't move.
No.
And I mean, if you push it many times and you can make it, and at the top you can see it move a little bit, it still feels like nothing moves. It can be like that sometimes, very strong, but of course then a little bit stiff, and he's quite willing to ignore that you're asking him to do anything, because what? I didn't notice. That's what it feels like sometimes. Roll on, number 4. This is March of last year, so almost a year ago. Still hanging over his shoulders a little bit, but now able to keep his neck up without there becoming a hole in front of the wither. Still, I would say that the front, what could you say, 20-30 centimeters from the withers backwards, still looks tense, sort of.
And this is something that you could feel when you're riding as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we're getting back to that.
Yeah, we will look at that quite a lot in videos. But here, the image is more, it's kind of similar to the one where he's coming out of the trailer, but a complete different top line on the neck, especially. Not very present in the back yet, but we will see if that too can improve. All right, there's one more pic like that from the number 5 one, please. That's the one. And
this is now.
This is now. So this is a year later.
Some couple of days ago.
Yeah, and we can see now that the underneck is not protruding anymore. Actually not there. Well, it's there, obviously, but not like that. You see how he's not hanging on his front legs. They're standing out in front of him a little bit. And all the lines in his neck and back look way, way softer. That's, at least that's how I would express it. Also, these days, nowadays, when I ride him, his whole back feels like it's relaxed, not all the time, but some of the time. And I can feel him sort of breathe through the saddle, and I can feel it open up beneath the saddle in every stride he takes. Whereas earlier, it kind of was this dead space in the middle. So the saddle didn't really move, or if it moved, only the back part of the saddle moved up and down, and that movement didn't carry through to the rest of the horse, which was a kind of, he was still soft to sit, but it's kind of off-putting. You're like, well, why doesn't this move forward? I want to go that way. And the horse just says, now what, this way? Feels very strange.
I was thinking, should we talk a little about that?
Of course.
Yeah, because...
just keep going on the pictures. Number 6, please.
Yeah.
All right, so this is from September the first year, so in 2021. And you can see that that he's way behind the vertical, not due to a hard hand at all. He just doesn't stretch forward to the hand. That has been troublesome all the time, and that is because of these faults that we have talked about. The strong underneck, the back that is tight just underneath the rider. You can see that the whole horse wants to go downhill. So I'm not trying to hold him back or anything like that. I'm trying to follow him, trying to allow him to trot larger, trying to allow him to stretch his nose forward to the hand, all of those things, but he didn't want to do that.
And I guess perhaps he's not able to. He
wasn't able to then, absolutely. Well, we don't know that he wasn't able to, but he sure as anything didn't try, for sure. Can we see the next one, 7? So this is half a year later. This is in March last year, so almost a year ago now. And the whole horse is way, way more able to lift himself up in front. The very experienced viewer might note that the connection in his lumbar back isn't quite what it should have been.
And he couldn't do this for a long time.
Not at all. This is a kind of a lucky moment.
Yes.
So he would feel like that and look like that for a few strides, and then he would fall apart. And he had to, like here, he's moving uphill a little bit, which makes it easier to carry properly. So many of those things are also obvious, but the whole outline is completely different. He wants to come up forward with his nose, and he was already then a completely different horse to sit. The last one, maybe? Is that the last pic?
Yeah.
Let's just do that one too. So this is ridden.
This is a little later, but it's in August 22.
Yeah, so half a year ago and half a year after the last one. And you see here, he's a little bit behind the vertical, but he's opening up more between his shoulders. You can see I'm sitting a little bit too much back and all that sort of stuff. I'm trying to stretch his stride a little bit here, which is sort of his greatest weakness.
Yeah.
And also mine, I assume.
Yeah. But all these still pictures are just moments in time, so it's impossible to get pictures that are exactly the same, but you get an idea. And we're going to see videos.
Yep.
So but I think that it's easier to explain it when you have a still picture, and then we can go on to the movement, and then you get the idea.
Yep. I guess it's time for some...
The first video, number 1.
Yeah.
Walk on long reins.
Yeah. So this is from probably the same session that the photo where he looked the best so far, or one of those sessions in that time. March of last year. He's moving all right through his everything at the moment. Still, his front legs look short. So when he stretches, he is obviously here on the forehand, even if he's stretching. And we always say that it doesn't have to be on the forehand when he's stretching, but when he's trotting and walking here, he is. He needs to be much more lifted through the withers in order not to be on his forehand in this position or when stretching like this. But what we can see is he wanted here to stretch his nose in front of the vertical. And that is more or less the first time that was possible. Yeah. And you can see also that when he allows himself to stretch forward, he breaks into a trot.
He loses his balance forwards.
Yeah. What I always think of it like this, that when you're walking, the musculature and the ligaments on top of the back from the pelvis diagonally across to the shoulder blade is more stretched at the walk than it is at a trot. So when he stretches to the sort of the end of his capacity, he falls into a trot. Yeah. That's the way I think of it. Quite often you can see that the horse, just when he tenses up a little, or he tenses up because he changes the rhythm, or all that sort of stuff.
Can we see the large picture again? Because in the beginning here, you see that the movement from the hind quarters doesn't go. It doesn't lift the saddle. No. When he's walking, we can see it when you start the walking again. Yeah. It stops. Yep. It stops at. It's supposed to. If you study that movement, the hindquarters, they're trying to lift the back, and you're trying with your seat to help him. But he can't do it. But this is something that we're training. Yeah. So we know that he's not able to do it, but we're trying to encourage him to do it. So, and we encourage him by way of just releasing my hips to the best of my abilities, and or moving, kind of carrying my weight through my hips. Yep. And you can see a way to see that this happens is, I'll show you when we get back into the walk. If you look at the rider, you will see that in every stride, the rider's leg wants to go forward and away from the horse. Can you see that? From the knee, the leg just wants to go forward. That means that the hips become stiff or are stiff. So. And we can see here in this very video, we can see that my hips are actually doing pretty well here, and I am able to move at least as much as, through my hips as the horse is able. You can see here. Yeah. As the horse is able to move through the back. Yeah.
You see my hips are perfectly able to move like that, but my knees still become a little bit stiff. And that is because of the movement in the horse, which is kind of weird.
That is a perfect example of how the horse is not able to come to the contact of the leg. Because when the horse moves right over the back, he will come to the contact of the lower leg.
Yeah. So what he's doing here is he tries to come to the contact of the hand. He tries to come to the contact of the seat, but he is not yet able to come to the contact of the leg.
And the stretching, you can see that he wants to stretch himself.
Yep.
He has discovered that this is a good thing, because he wants to stretch those muscles that are tight.
Yep.
And then we let him.
Yeah.
And if he wants to trot a little, he's allowed to that, but then he has to.
Then we have to take him back down into a walk and find the balance again.
Because he's not allowed to just run, because that is not.
That's not good training.
No.
Should we roll on to the next one? Second. Thank you, sir. So this is trot, March of that same year, 22.
And you can see that then the trot is very choppy.
Yeah.
And he's on the forehand and he's behind the vertical.
The whole parallelogram is sort of shifted forwards.
Yeah. And then it's choppy to sit on.
Oh yeah.
And it's not good for the front legs.
No.
And many people, there are so many people talking about how terrible people are that are riding the horse behind the vertical. But I have never met one rider that really wants to ride the horse behind the vertical.
No.
But they are not able to do anything about it.
No.
So let's talk about that. We're going to talk about how this episode is about that. How to get the horse up in front without just trying to lift the horse up with your hands. That doesn't.
So this horse isn't up in front because he's stuck in his neck and in his back just underneath the saddle. And you can see the whole parallelogram of the horse is sort of shifted forwards. That is the same way as the horse was. I don't even get it. So the whole horse looks like he's falling forward all the time, even if it's uphill and all sorts of stuff. And I'm not sitting there holding on for dear life or anything like that. But still, you'll see the horse move his working his mouth a lot, and it's really difficult for him to stretch forward and lift himself up. As we progress through the videos, we will see how that changes.
Yep.
Right. So we'll move to the next video. So this is September of last year, so half a year ago or something. Not quite that. And we're playing with some collection looking things.
And that is also an exercise to help him lift his withers, isn't it?
It is that too. You can see he tries sometimes. So that is more or less like the taratar.
And in the last jump there, he was actually lifting his withers.
Yeah.
And also you're training him to put his hindquarters under himself.
Yeah.
And that is also helping to stretch the top line, but from behind.
Absolutely. There's a question, it seems.
Yep. It's Pelle.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I know this horse and I know how strong he is and an absolute unit. And I was wondering if you got any thoughts on how much of his strength is training and how much of it is genetics.
All right. At the moment, I would say most of his strength is absolutely genetics. He was strong as an ox when he came, but he's growing even stronger. So depending on how you will define that strength, it is either one thing or the other, or also we will see how it all comes together like it goes up into a higher unity, sort of.
But
Sorry?
Perhaps we should look at that one, and you can see the difference in the neck. If we look at the still picture number 1.
Yep.
Where
we're
a
making
little hard on
making it hard on our technicians now. Right. So still picture number 1. Have a look at this neck.
And also the body, I guess.
Yeah, well, I can go through it if you want me to.
Yeah,
unless
do that.
you want to do it yourself.
No.
If we start at the front, you can see that the top of the neck, like the top half of the neck, and I mean from sort of where you can imagine the spine is and up towards the mane. That part of the neck here does not look strong, but the underneck does look strong, right? If you look at the hindquarters, they look small.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah.
You can also, it's kind of hard to see the musculature of his around his withers in this one, but it'll be more, it'll pop out, I think, in the other picture you were talking about.
Nice.
So if we can switch to picture number 5, and if we have a look at the neck now, it looks much more muscled. The shoulders are more muscled. Around the withers, he's way more muscled. And the hindquarters look heavier.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yes.
All right.
And it's especially the top of the neck, or the top of the neck right in front of the withers, look really much stronger.
Yeah. So he's filled out a lot. So I can't answer in absolute terms how much it is, but it was clear from the beginning, from the get-go, that this guy was going to be really strong.
Yeah, so he has been strong all the time.
Yeah.
But now he's even stronger.
Now he's stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
we're
the good
working on
thing-
making him the strongest. Now that's a joke that nobody of you will get, but I got it, so I'm laughing inside now.
But this breed, this is the knabstrup.
Yeah.
That is the classical old-fashioned type, and they are genetically stronger and more like tougher in their body.
Yeah.
And that is a very good thing when you're going to use him as a jousting horse.
I believe so. I believe that when the horse is really strong, both bones are strong, joints are strong, ligaments are strong, and musculature is strong, then it is easy for the horse to carry a rider. If the horse uses that muscle to carry the rider properly. All right. So I think that should answer the question in some depth. We were at the terre-à-terre. We will go to number 4. Video, please. So what we're doing here is, this is from that same session where I'm trying to make him collect a bit. I'm actually trying to make him bend his hindquarters a little bit, and sometimes he will try and lift his withers. You see, now he's sat down, but his back was still down. Again, does the same thing. While the back is down, he will come into something appropriate, approximating a school halt, as they say. So he's sitting down and lifting one front leg up.
And you haven't taught him that?
Not at all. No. I'm not, as you all should know by now, I'm not into teaching tricks, but I will still play with my horses, and you will see later on in this here show that we will have some play as well. Kind of almost breaking into a canter, but he's like, oh, but I don't want to trot this collected, and I don't want to canter this collected either, so I'm gonna shuffle. This is a shuffle. Now it's a trot. And
but he's not that behind the vertical. It's a little sometimes.
It's a little bit sometimes. Sometimes he's almost up. Sometimes he almost stretches his withers up as well. But you saw when we tried to collect and tried to ask him a lot, then his whole back became tense. You can see that I'm doing all I can to give him rein whenever he tries to lift himself. This is important. Also, you can see that there is no harsh pulling or anything like that on the rein. That's not how you collect him, especially not a horse that really wants to be short and behind. That will just make everything difficult. So I'm trying to be as soft in my hands as I possibly can, and I'm asking carefully with my legs And I don't even know if I carried a stick this day. I'm not sure, I can't remember. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I'm trying to ask his hind legs to come underneath, and sometimes he tries to lift his back, and then he kind of wriggles his butt because he doesn't want to collect in the way that we want here. He doesn't dare here in this video. You can see that his lumbar spine isn't lifting the power forward. The hind legs try to bend, they try to push off, but the whole lumbar spine just looks like a wet cloth.
Yeah, and you're using this type of riding, and then you're stretching him sometimes, and as we always say, you have to vary.
Yeah.
All the time you're doing different stuff. And
yeah, sometimes I do all of those things in one session, and sometimes I do a lot of stretching in 5 sessions, and then for 2 sessions I shorten him up. Depends on what I feel like.
And of course, in all the gaits, we haven't selected any canter videos. That's because we haven't got the time to show everything. So we have concentrated on the trots.
Yeah, that is also, of course, because his canter, especially the left lead, is still not good. It is getting a lot better, and the last few days it has been fairly all right, but it's not good yet. So that's a caveat for you guys there. We'll roll on to the next one, number 5, please. So this is from August of 22. Trotting. You can see he's becoming a lot looser in his movements, relaxed sort of, but still carrying. And he wants to have his nose much more up and forward.
And the rhythm is a little different. He's more relaxed in his trot.
Yeah.
So his stride is a little longer.
Yeah. And here we're working a little bit on some leg yields. I believe you've seen these videos before, maybe?
Yeah, we've seen several of these before.
Yeah.
But
we're trying to show a progression.
Yeah.
Look, I'm wearing my own shirt in sort of in honor of myself.
But you can see still he has difficulty stretching to the bit.
Absolutely. He has difficulty stretching at all. All right.
But he's finding the rhythm, and rhythm is very important.
Yep.
Yep.
And as you see, soft hands trying to let him move freely into the hand all the time.
And you're trying, sometimes you can see that you're trying to
lengthen the stride a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he finds that difficult.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But he needs to be allowed to try.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did pretty good there, I thought. We'll go next, please. Number 6.
And that is when?
That's of October of last year. So even a few months later.
And now you can see that he's even better in his stride, much softer, not so choppy, almost not choppy at all.
Almost not.
And more diagonal.
Yeah, there's a little bit of bend in the knees all the time.
And also a little more stretched forward to the bit, a little more, all the time a little more.
Yeah, it's slightly improving all the time.
Yeah.
But of course, it's kind of hard to see or feel these changes when they come on this relatively slowly. You see, we've been looking at video and pictures for over more than a year now from the first ones. But he looks quite different as a horse. Now you can see his buttocks are becoming stronger, and you can also see sometimes that their back is actually trying to do something. So it's not just allowing all the movement to go sideways to flop around, but he's trying a little bit to move it forward. Still, you can see that one side of his pelvis comes up when the other... So he's kind of twisting a little bit. You see his butt is twisting a little bit from side to side like that. That means that the energy isn't transferred forwards. It is quite simple physics. If it goes sideways, obviously it isn't going absolutely forwards. And we're not looking for absolutely, but we have to look for whether whether it's pointing in that direction or not.
And also you can see that you're good with your half holds. There are half holds all the time. Taking the contact and then yielding your hands forwards.
Yeah.
And then he is always asked then to try to stretch.
Yeah. So all those half holds, they are hardly conscious.
No, they should be unconscious.
Should be by this time.
Yeah.
You can see here too that he's still kicking my legs away from him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not always. Sometimes I manage, or he manages, depending on who you want to keep responsible in this in this game. But anyway, kind of interesting. Struggling to make him move sideways in a leg yield here. Not much of a leg yield, but anyway. All right. I think we should move on to the number 7, please. So we're playing a little bit. I promised you guys we would do some of this stuff. Out here in the knot arena, we have found a wall, as you can see, a log on the ground there. I'm asking the horse to not go backwards because I want him to lift up and forward. And you can see in this clip that he tries to lift his withers too sometimes. And he even tries to walk forwards on his hind legs, showing off his mighty strength. He's really strong. So he's kind of nervous to go into it, so he kind of backs out of it a little bit. Help, help, help. Help, help. The man is making me do things I love. I do think he does. You see, he tries to lift the wither and behind the wither too. And then he comes a little bit, almost. And there we find the balance. And you can see that he lifts himself twice with his hindquarters there. I think the second lift there, or the last one, really. Mm-hmm. I think of it as the second. I'm sorry, very confusing. So the last lift he does here, after he walks forward a couple of strides, that is a really good try at the pesade. So I'm not trying at any particular movement. I'm just saying, can you lift yourself? That one is good.
Mm-hmm. And also when he walks with his hind legs,
mm-hmm.
that is more difficult than just standing on his two legs.
Yeah, but all of that comes because he's not really carrying all his weight on the hind legs, and this is a thing that that I try to make people understand all the time. When he stands on his hind legs, here, all his weight isn't on the hind legs. It's on its way up or it's on its way down.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Just like a ball that I'm throwing up into the air.
But if you throw it into the air, it has no weight anymore. You can all try that at home. Use a rock.
Yeah, if I do this,
it is weightless. It is weightless when it comes back down, hits you in the face.
When it's in the air.
Yeah.
It hasn't got a weight in my hand.
No.
It's the same with the horse when he throws his weight is front side up.
Mm-hmm.
There is not necessarily more weight on his hind legs.
No, and even if there is more, it is the 100% of the weight of the horse. So that's the point. So we're trying to show that there is progress in his strength as well, and he's trying, and we're playing like this. I don't recommend everybody to play like this. It has its downfalls.
But
you might fall off, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry?
But when he's lifting his withers,
mm-hmm.
he's lifting with his back and not just throwing his head up, then he is putting more weight on the hindquarters.
Absolutely. So, and you see in most of his tries here, you can see him sit down, and also I do believe he carries quite a bit of weight, like here, on his hind legs. Absolutely. And this is more like what it feels like when I work, because my head goes into full speed. So it feels slow like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to find his balance, has to move forward to find it, and a very good lift. Mm-hmm. Nice, good boy. Should we look at the walk on number 8? So this is January this year.
Yeah.
Just a few days ago.
Yeah.
And the conditions, I must be allowed to say, were horrendous. So what isn't mud in this picture is ice. So he's trying to walk even more relaxed, I would say.
Yeah.
much more connected through the lumbar spine.
Mhm.
And that's more or less what I can see in this. What can you see?
I can see that even though the surface is terrible,
Mm-hmm.
muddy and with bits like this of
Lumps
ice,
of ice all over the
that
place.
that is slippery and very uneven,
Mm-hmm.
he is more or less like a tractor.
It just balances across it.
Yeah, and that is because of his rhythm is better.
Yeah. So when he is relaxed, his strength comes to the surface.
Yeah, and also his back is moving better. It's perhaps difficult to see the difference, but if we look at the back behind the saddle, the back is lifting the saddle behind the cantle of the saddle.
Mm. You can see
Up.
the cantle moving pretty
Yeah.
clearly.
Yes, in a much better way,
Mhm.
and that means that he's more connected between the hind legs and the front legs.
Which means that there will be possibilities for moving the weight backwards.
Yeah, and that there will be possibility to balance on an uneven surface.
Absolutely. Another question?
Sylvia?
Mm-hmm.
I can see that you are using different kind of bits
Yeah.
in his training. Is that on purpose that you change to the kandar?
Curb.
And how is it to change it with just the curb or just snaffle? Is there anything better to make the horse stretch to the contact?
These are very good questions. Why do you trick many questions into the same? All right. I have ridden him with the full bridle because that's what he's coming to. He's strong enough in everything to lift himself up, and quite often I will ride him fairly short in his outline. When he's short and really high in the outline, like his neck like that and the head like vertical, then the idea, from what I understand of the bridle, is that the, what do you call it again, kandar?
The curb.
The curb bit, it kind of takes the head and opens the neck up at the top, while the snaffle kind of will just push the whole neck back like that. So that is a thing that sometimes if he shortens very much and I am asking a lot of energy, then I can use the curb to make him looser. And when he isn't, when he's just trying to stretch and all that, then I try to use the bridoon or the regular snaffle.
Mm-hmm.
So
You have been using both.
I have been using both, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and I can't see, and I'm usually the advocate for using the snaffle
Mm-hmm.
mostly with young horses.
Yeah.
And with horses that are afraid to take the contact.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't see that there is a big difference on him, and when you're riding him to try to get him to reach more for the contact,
Mm-hmm.
You're slackening off the curb reins
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
So the problem is not that he's afraid of the bit. It is something in his body.
Yeah.
Mm.
However, generally using the snaffle to allow the horse to stretch is often easier.
Mm-hmm.
If you have both, it is possible to do more things at the same time, but it is of course much more demanding both for the horse and for the rider.
Mm.
The last thing that is that I think is quite often just overseen is that if you switch between different bits, the horse will be a little bit more, let's call it timid. I don't mean that in a bad way, but a little bit more like, what is this thing now? And that will often give the rider more time or room or space to be softer with your aids. So just switching between different bits will give that experience. Quite often if you switch a bit, you will find riders that say, oh, my horse is much better with this one. And then you switch back and they say, oh, it's much better with this one. and I have experienced that a lot myself. So just changing will yield a result, and quite often it feels positive. So switching between different bits or setups is always a good thing, I believe. And of course you can also probably find some type of bit that the horse likes better, but that is quite often very difficult to ascertain. That's what I say about the bit anyway.
As long as it is a bit that the horse likes.
Yeah.
He needs to like to have the bit in his mouth.
Yeah. One more thing. The snaffle will help the horse do this.
Yeah.
And the curb this. And you need both. So that's sort of the best answer I have for that. If that's not good enough, follow up with another one, please. All right, we're gonna go to the number 9 video. Still those circumstances, but we're trotting. The horse is really trying to bring his nose up and really trying to bring his back up. And is much less side to side in his pelvis.
But you can see here that he's a little more tense than in the summer picture, because it's because of the surface.
Yeah, but still he's a little bit more tense, but he's as good or maybe better to the bit, and also much more up in the back.
And there is one very
agree?
good session. Yeah, there's very one good moment here when you were yielding in the rein, and he's following, and that is something that he has started to do.
Yeah.
Here or right after here, I think. Yeah, looking at you yielding.
Yeah.
And he's trying to, and you're doing it all the time. You see that? And then you're giving your hands forwards.
Yeah.
And you can't give that much, because then he will lose it.
And then it just falls forward.
Yeah.
So giving more isn't the solution, and taking more isn't the solution. The solution is to find some sort of middle ground.
Yeah.
All right. I think he looks way better in the trot here, to be perfectly honest.
Good.
There's also more integrity in how my whole leg moves.
That is, he's come to your leg contact.
So it doesn't look as if he's kicking my leg forward in every stride anymore. My leg looks like it's my leg all the way. It's the thigh is kind of loose from the horse, or kind of close to the horse at the same time. The calf is also on the horse. It's not perfect all the time, of course, you understand that I'm not saying perfect, but the whole leg looks better. This is important. If you want to learn something from it, it is that there's a connection between how the horse moves and how you move, and that connection goes both ways. It's not like you can move perfectly and the horse moves like shit. That is impossible. Nobody can do that. And then you could also say that then by definition you're not moving perfectly, because the horse doesn't move with you. So all of that is difficult. You have a couple other ones too. Number 10. We're trying to collect again. So in this, it is quite different, because now he has started to offer something approximating a piaffe. I'm not saying this is a piaffe, just so that you guys know. But he's trying to move diagonally instead of using his legs both at the same time. And that is new. And that is because he's much more relaxed underneath the saddle.
Yeah. So then he can feel the diagonality. And this jump that he does is he's trying to get this loose.
So I look at this as sort of a physical therapy session or a chiropractic session. I'm just saying you have to move your legs here, and your neck should be just about this long. And then I say, can you try that? And he says, no, I gotta move out of this way, or I gotta bump my butt up, or all sorts of ways to get out of it. Sometimes he carries quite a lot of weight on the hindquarters. Sometimes he backs out of it. Sometimes he curls away from it. And then until he almost bucked, then he tries to bring his hind legs proper under and lift himself in front. And he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that he likes this kind of training. He's really eager.
He's very eager. He's so eager to do this that it's kind of hard to make him start to relax in the beginning of a session. We have to look at the last one too. That's an interesting...
very short one. But
very short, but very... all right, yeah, there's a soft landing. I see what you mean.
I like that one because you can see that he's cushioning the landing with his whole shoulders.
He tries.
And that
really.
is because he's lifting his withers with in between his shoulder blades.
Yep.
When he lifts up, he lifts his withers more than he's lifting his shoulders.
Yeah.
And when he lands, he has this whole, like, what's it called?
Sling.
Yeah,
like a sling of muscle.
It's a sort of a, what you call that in a motorcycle when you have this
springs.
The way that you can sort of cushion the bump.
Yeah.
In the.
It's like the travel of the springs.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what to call that.
It is like that in between the shoulders. Because you, and that is also with a show jumper. For instance, if you're jumping an obstacle and you're landing, if the horse is up in his withers normally, he's got a much more movement in his shoulder when he lands.
So he can redirect the energy before all the energy goes down into the... Yeah. Can we see that? Can you roll that? Can you show that slow motion actually? The last one. So you can see here that I got really surprised. That's fine. So, well...
It looks very good.
You see I bounce out of the saddle. And that is to rebalance myself, but also I'm surprised from the movement. It is not because it is exceptional in any way, but it is absolutely different. So when he lands, there's a little bit of like a spring-loaded feeling to the landing here. So when he comes down, I keep going down after he has landed, come with him, and then I go back up again and bump out of the saddle, which I usually don't. And I thought that was an interesting thing. I need to lean back when I do this, I see. This looks shit. Horse looks great. Should take away the dude sitting on top. There we go. You see? Bounce.
And it bounces up again.
I've never seen it bounce.
You see? I was surprised. So, I want to go back to the first picture again. So to sort of start rounding off, this is where we started in June 21. And then I want to see the number 5 picture. And this is now.
And it looks a little more shaggy, but that is because it's winter.
It's winter. Also, well, I think it is quite obvious to see the difference. The whole neck looks completely different. And he feels massive too.
And also the lines are more smooth.
Yes, and that's a very important point to make. We have said it several times during the video too, that it is important to note that the lines become smooth and soft. If they are, you can always see it. You don't always notice it like consciously, but your subconscious always knows. It knows things about balance as well.
I was wondering if did you ride with a curb there or just with a snaffle?
I believe that's just a snaffle.
Because I think it's important that we talk a little about this thing.
The snaffle.
Yeah, because
curb
I have been thinking about that thing during this stream myself. Because it is a point that if you're riding with a curb, it's easier for the horse. It is easier to pull the horse together with a curb.
Absolutely.
And then so he will just do this with his neck. And then often when I have a student that is having that problem and is riding with a curb, I say change to the snaffle and the horse is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that is because the horse has learned to yield to the curb.
Learned, it has taught itself to go behind.
Problem. Yes, and that is a different problem.
Yeah.
Because this horse he had been ridden, but not much.
Not enough
and
to
I don't think that he's
been
been ridden at all with a curb.
No.
It is a different problem, and it's important to realize that when you see a problem in a horse, there can be different reasons.
Yep.
So that we have to look into, because this horse has always been, or if we have a look at that
picture number
number
6.
6.
I look to the skies and it pops up. Weird. Yeah, that's the snaffle.
And it was you could yield with your hands, but he you could see that it doesn't he doesn't balance himself more just by yielding.
No.
We have this if you look at this video again, we're not going to show this now because we haven't got much time. But if you guys who are watching, watch the video again when he's trotting and walking with a loose rein.
Mm-hmm.
He's stretching a lot. He's good at stretching, but once you pick up the rein, he would earlier he would just do that, and that is because of these stiff muscles in his body and neck.
Yeah, I can actually. I think I can fill in a little bit there. It's like when the horse lacks one of these qualities. Let's say he doesn't, like Hanne said, when you allow him to stretch all the way back down and forward, then he will stretch his nose out in front of the vertical. But as soon as I pick him up just a little or even short, he would always kind of curl himself in behind. And then after a while of training, he started to have like 2 positions you could ride him in where he was able to come forward. At the very long down forward, he was able, and then at sort of a half short, then he's able to come to the bit. And then if you give the rein a little bit beyond that, he'll curl behind. Even if he stretches his back out, he'll still curl behind. And so it's behind, and then he comes forward at the bottom. And or is behind, and then he comes to a position. Can we show picture number 7, please? So this is one of those instances where he's kind of perfectly long for himself.
Yeah.
So he had to be this short or completely long for him to come to the vertical in this period.
And some horses are like that. You have problems, so that you have the problems. You have to access them in a very short form and a very long one, and then you have to change between those 2. And then slowly the horse is becoming able to be in front of the vertical during the whole through the whole spectrum.
It feels like this. The horse will be okay when he's completely long. Then that's okay, and then you start to sort of make it possible to ride him in between here and here. You can have him in front of the vertical, and then up here you can also do that. And then you try to make that whole area bigger. And as that progresses, all of a sudden there's a spot in the middle where you can also ride him like that. And then you try to expand that a little bit too. Make him a little bit longer and a little bit shorter, and a little bit longer again and a little bit shorter.
And then you have to vary all the exercises.
The more variables you can change up, the better it is.
And is lateral movements and collecting movements, but this is a fairly young horse, so you shouldn't collect him too much, but a little, it's just fun for the horse, and it's good for him to realize that he can bend his hind legs,
Yep.
because then it will stretch his top line from behind.
Absolutely. So I want to leave you guys with video number 7, please. And with that, we will say thank you for tonight. This will be the future. In the future, I'll be on top, and he will be balanced when we do this. If it's in my powers.
Yeah, you will do that.
I will. Thanks you guys so much for following. And let's hope that we all can work our balance and our fears just like this guy does.
Goodbye.
Thank you and good night.